Hello and welcome back to Learn Linux TV. In this video, what we're going to do is install Fedora Workstation version 42. Now the thing is, if you've been following the channel, then you know that I've already created a video recently that walks you through exactly that. But this time around, what we're going to do is dual boot Fedora 42 with Windows 11. We're going to set up a full dual boot configuration, and this is perfect for those of you that are just learning Linux. You want to make the switch, but maybe you're not ready to go full-time just yet. By the end of this video, you'll be able to choose between Windows 11 and Fedora from the same computer, giving you a dual boot configuration. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you know what? I'm really eager to get started, so let's dive in right now. All right, so here I am on a computer that is only running Windows currently. This is a brand new computer out of the box with a very default Windows 11 installation. Just to give you an idea of what I'm working with here, I'll just give you some information here. Go to Properties. And you can see the specs when it comes to this particular computer. This is a mini PC that I use for recording footage. Out of the box, it comes with Windows 11 Pro. So we can see that we do have Windows installed here. And it's active, which really doesn't matter for what we're doing. I was just curious. But anyway, we have a Windows 11 installation, and it's also taking up the entirety of the hard drive. So if I go to Properties on the C drive here, we could see that there's just one volume. It's drive C. It's taking up the entire disk. But what we want to do is install Fedora in a dual boot configuration. So how do we go about that? Well, first of all, what we want to do is make sure that we back up our entire computer, basically, because if something goes wrong, we might lose information. Sure, we're creating a dual boot, so we shouldn't lose anything on our Windows installation. But just in case something goes wrong, it's really good to have a backup. So I do recommend taking a full system image of your computer before you continue, just in case. Anyway, to get the process started, we're going to create installation media for Fedora. We'll need to dedicate a flash drive for this particular use case. So just grab a flash drive that has nothing important on it, and it should be fine. So what I'll do is just insert my flash drive right now. And we don't need to do anything with it right now, just need to have it attached. Anyway, what we'll do is just open up a web browser. And what we want to do is navigate to getfedora.org. Should redirect us right to the proper website anyway, which is actually fedoraproject.org. And what we're going to do is download the latest release of Fedora. So I'll click on it. And we're going to be installing Fedora Workstation, so I'll click Download Now. And what I want to do is, instead of just downloading the ISO file, I mean, yeah, you can do that and do this manually if you want to, but it's a lot better to use the Fedora Media Writer. So what I'm going to do is click right here. I'm currently running Windows on this particular computer. As you can see, it's available for Linux and Mac as well. Basically, you just download it for whatever your operating system currently is on the computer. So here's the Windows version of the Media Writer, so we'll download that. And it's a very small download compared to other things, only 52 megabytes in this case. We're going to click Keep if we get a message like this. That's fine. Keep anyway. That should finalize the download. So a bit of protection here in Windows, but you may or may not see that message. But basically, you want to end up with this file right here. And here it is in my downloads directory. So what we're going to do is open it up. I'll say yes. And here we have the installer for the Fedora Media Writer. I'll click I agree. I'm just going to keep all the defaults here. I'll click Install. Should be that simple. It says completed. We'll click Next. May as well run it now. I'll click Finish. And here we have the Fedora Media Writer. This is really, really easy to use. We're going to leave it on download automatically. We'll click next. We'll leave it on official editions. We want to install Fedora Workstation. If you drop this down, there's other things that you can install as well, but we want the Workstation edition for this tutorial. We'll click next. We're going to download the latest version. It defaults to the latest version. As of recording time, we're at version 42 of Fedora. You may or may not need to change this here if it's different for you, but for most people, Intel AMD is probably what you want. Under download, we could check this box right here to delete the ISO file after writing. Essentially what it's going to do is it's going to download an ISO file, which is the type of file that's used for creating an installer for Fedora, and save it here in the downloads directory. If you don't check that box, it's just going to retain that file, which is good if you plan on reusing it sometime in the future, but I'm not going to need it again after this. So I'll just check this box right here and click download and write. And by the way, once you click this button, it's going to erase everything on your flash drive. So again, just make sure you're not using one that has something important on it. So I'll click download and write, and I'll do it again. And the first thing that it's going to do is download Fedora Workstation 42. And it shouldn't take too long for this to go through the process. So we'll let this download. I'll fast forward in post-production to save us some time. So at this point, it's just checking the download to make sure that it downloaded properly. And now what it's going to do is actually, well, write Fedora Workstation 42 to the flash drive. So again, I'm going to fast forward this in post-production, and I'll be right back. And it looks like we're done. So we have a Fedora installer with our flash drive, so that's pretty cool. So I'll click Finish. And I'll close the app, we don't need it anymore. So the next thing we want to do is keep the flash drive inserted into our computer and access the boot menu when we reboot. Now, depending on your computer, it might be F7, F12, F11. Different manufacturers use a different hotkey at the very beginning of the boot process for accessing the boot menu. My computer in particular is F7, so what I'm going to do is reboot it and be ready to press F7 at the very beginning. So let's do it. All right, so I'm going to press F7 right here. And here we have the boot menu for my computer. And you just select the flash drive. The naming convention for your flash drive might be different than mine, but this one is mine right here. I am used to seeing this every time I record a video, so I know that's the one I need. So what I'll do is press enter on that one, and what that should do is boot into the Fedora installer. So here we'll press any key, and then we'll go down to continue boot. And then to save some time, we'll go up to Start Fedora Workstation Live. I just press the up arrow, and then here I'll press enter. And here we have the Fedora installer. Now, if you haven't seen my other videos where I mentioned live mode, basically we're running in live mode right now, which means Fedora is literally running, the entire operating system is running off the flash drive. And here we can start the installation process by simply clicking this button. But it's a really good idea to test everything in live mode before you do that. So what I'm going to do is click Not Now, and that'll close the installer. And at this point, what I recommend you do is just test Fedora and make sure that it works. Keep in mind that running Fedora from the flash drive might make it a little slower in responsiveness than it would be if it was installed on the actual computer itself. But the idea is just to make sure that everything works. We don't want to install an operating system until we, make sure that it's compatible. The first thing that most of you should do is go up here to the System Control menu, and then underneath Wi-Fi, if you do use Wi-Fi, we'll click the right arrow, and then we'll connect to whatever your wireless network happens to be. So I'll connect to this one right here in my case, and then I'll type in the password for it, and click Connect. Right here, this Wi-Fi icon should change to at least mostly white if it's going to work, and it's all white right here, so we are connected. It shows my SSID right here, so I'm connected. And to double check, we should just open a web browser and make sure that we can access the internet. In Fedora, we could do that by clicking up here to the Activities Overview. And then down here, we have a Firefox icon. Firefox is pre-installed in Fedora, so we'll click on that. And again, it could be a little slower in live mode, but the amount of time it's taking to open Firefox is not really a big deal. Now we are online. We're able to access this website right here that comes up by default when you first launch this particular browser in Fedora, but I want to really make sure that everything is working. So one way we could do that is just go to my website, for example, learnlinux.tv, or pretty much any website you want to. Just make sure you can access the website, but more importantly, just click on any one of these videos and make sure that you can hear it. Make sure that the video works, that it's not choppy, that you hear the audio, which would imply that your sound card is supported. You're basically just checking different things with Fedora before you install it to make sure that it's compatible. If you have a scanner, a printer, a secondary display, or any other peripheral that you want to use with Fedora, it's a good idea to connect it now and just double check that everything works. If something doesn't work, all you should have to do is Google your model of computer, whatever that happens to be, and then maybe no Wi-Fi, no audio, choppy video, just whatever your symptoms happen to be, and you should find information on how to solve it. Sorry to interrupt my own video, but I have something really cool that I've just released that I want to tell you about. I put together the Ultimate Linux Commands Cheat Sheet, a downloadable PDF that covers all the essential Linux commands, as well as some great bash aliases, hardening tips, and other nuggets that I've picked up over the years. For just a $3 donation, it's yours, and it makes a great reference for those of you that work with a terminal. Every purchase helps keep this channel going. There's a lot of cost involved with editing all the content for you guys, and it also helps justify the amount of caffeine that I go through while I edit these videos. As always, thank you guys so much for supporting Linux learning. I really appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the video. But once you verify that everything is working properly, then we can go ahead and proceed with setting up the dual boot. To get back to the installer, we closed it earlier. We just open Activities Overview right here. We go down to Install to Hard Drive. It's this icon here. We'll click on that. That should bring the installer back up. And here we have the official Fedora Workstation installer. Now keep in mind, I'm using the normal GNOME-based Workstation edition, essentially the flagship release of Fedora in this video. Other alternative versions or spins of Fedora will have a different installer, so you may not see the same installer, but we're installing the Workstation edition, so let's go through the process. So the first thing we're doing is choosing our language. Mine defaulted to English US. That's correct for me. You can, of course, scroll through this list if your primary language is something other than that. Down here, if you use something other than a US keyboard or something other than what was detected, you could click here to change the system keyboard layout. But in my case, everything is correct. So click Next. Now, in this case, what we're going to do is share the disk with another operating system. And in this case, it's telling me that there's not enough free space for us to be able to do that. And that makes sense because by default, when you have a Windows install, it's going to take up the entire drive. So we will need to reclaim some space. So it's checked this box for us. It's mandatory at this point since we don't even have any space. Now, of course, if we wanted to do a full install and erase Windows, we would choose this option right here. But in this video, we're setting up a dual boot. So we want to share disk with other operating systems. So click Next. And here we have our partitions. What I'll do is click this button right here to shrink the file system. And right now it's 255 gigabytes. Let's just lower that down and give some room for Fedora. So it doesn't really matter. I think I'll just leave it at 150. I think that's more than enough. It really depends on how much space you're using on your Windows installation. Obviously, if yours is a fresh Windows install like mine is, it really doesn't matter so much because you're not using anything. But basically want to make sure that you leave enough space for Windows. When you go ahead and move this slider here, and then the rest of the space is going to be for Fedora. So let's click Resize. We'll click Reclaim Space. And that should be all there is to it for that particular step. Now, alternatively, you can encrypt your installation, your Fedora installation. For most of you, you might want to consider doing this. It just keeps your data safe if you end up having your computer stolen or something like that. If you want to activate encryption, you'll type your password here, and then you'll type it again here. I'm not going to encrypt mine, though. This is just a demo install anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it in my case. I'll leave it up to you. The performance difference between an encrypted system and unencrypted system should not be perceivable, so that part shouldn't matter. But you will need to enter the password in every time you start your computer if you do encrypt it, and if you lose that password, you will not be able to get back into your computer. So just keep that in mind. I'll keep it simple in my case. I'll click Next. And the Fedora installer is giving us a little summary here of what it intends on doing. It's going to let you know what it's doing with the partitions. It's going to resize this partition right here from 255 gigabytes down to 150. We're leaving the other partitions alone. Essentially, I just resized the main Windows partition, which is going to be the largest one anyway. And next, what we'll do is click this button right here, that it's going to modify partitions, and I'll click Install. And now we're going to wait for this to finish. I'll just fast forward this in post-production, and I'll be right back. All right, it looks like the installation process has been completed. So what we'll do is click Exit to Live Desktop. And at this point, it's just dropping us back to live mode. We're not using the installed version of Fedora just yet. But what we want to do at this point is reboot the machine. If all goes well, we should see a selection at the very beginning that'll ask us which operating system we want. So what I'll do is just reboot it right now. So I clicked up here, the System Control menu. We'll click the power icon, and then we'll click Restart. Let's see what happens. Also, make sure you remove the flash drive from the computer so it doesn't boot back into the installer again. Anyway, right here we see the boot menu. The first option is Fedora, as you can see. We have a rescue mode for Fedora if we run into any problems. And we also have Windows Boot Manager. So what I'm going to do is boot into Windows first. We want to make sure that Windows is still working, so I'll select that option and press Enter. As you can see, I was able to log into Windows, so we know that it's still working. And just in case you're curious, what I'll do is just show you the difference when it comes to the disk. We did resize that earlier. We can see here already that it's a smaller volume. There's 139 gigabytes approximately when it comes to the size of the volume. We resized it to install Fedora. So far, this is exactly what we expected to see. So now what I'll do is reboot again. This time I'm going to select the Fedora option at the beginning. All right, so we're restarting again, and here's the boot menu. So I'm going to choose the first option, Fedora. Let's make sure that Fedora works. So I'll press Enter on that. And here we have Fedora. Now on your end, you're going to see a welcome screen appear that's going to ask you to select your username, set your password, and things like that. I wasn't able to grab that screen for you guys because my screen recorder was not able to grab that. However, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just fill out the information, so just go through that. I do recommend that you choose the option for enabling third-party repositories. That gives you even more access to software. And then once you're done with all that, you should see the Fedora desktop right here. Now, the first thing that I recommend that you do is go to the Activities Overview and access GNOME software. This is your software store. This is how you get, software installed in Fedora. You could search for software through this particular application. There's categories. And when you first open it up, it's normal not to have all of your icons here. You see these gray boxes. It's going to index the first time that you open this. After you've used Fedora for some time, this should automatically fix itself. Now, what you could do here is just search for an application that you want to install. For example, Steam. If you want to install something like that, you could just search for it, click on it, and click Install. I'm not going to go through that right now because, all you have to do is click Install. It's that easy. But more importantly, what you want to do is go to the Updates tab right here and install all of your updates. You just click Download right here, and what's going to happen is it's going to restart, install all of your updates. It should be pretty easy. Now, I'm not going to go through this process on my end because this is just a demo machine, so I don't really care too much about it. But I do recommend that you update it on your end. But anyway, all you have to do is just, use Fedora. To access applications that are installed, you go up here to Activities Overview, and then down here to Show Apps. that gives you a list of all the applications that you have installed, and any new applications that you install through GNOME software will appear here as well. But anyway, literally it's that easy. You now have your very own dual boot between Fedora and Windows, and I hope you enjoy it. And there you go. In this video, we set up a dual boot between Windows 11 and Fedora 42, and I really hope it helped you out. My goal on this channel is to make Linux learning easy, and if I made it easy for you in this video, then click that like button. Let YouTube know that this video helped you out, and that might result in more Linux goodness here on YouTube. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, in the meantime, I'm recording some awesome tutorials, reviews, all kinds of Linux-related shenanigans for you guys. And if you want to be the first to see those videos, definitely subscribe to Learn Linux TV for the latest in Linux. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one.